This is a quick tutorial for anybody who wants to dabble a little bit deeper in metadata analysis. In the Metability group, program group, there's a little program. Now, MMFAnalyzer or MetaMind Framework Analyzer is really a almost an X-ray application. It starts up without the knowledge of any plugins, and it's pretty empty. Now you can see it has 4 basic functionalities. One's called file parsing updating, PI for plugin scope, loaded plugin and its interfaces, as well as a tab which shows the log data, what happened during the process. As the first step, you actually need to load a plugin. So you go to the first tab and click the Select Plugin, Select PI button. I do this right now, and I need to go to the application directory where FileMind is installed. In a default Windows, that will be C, Program Files, Metability Software, Scavenger. The MetaMind Framework part of FileMind is installed in a subdirectory Scavenger. And within this subdirectory, you can see the 6 modular Scavenger plugins that are used by the MetaMind Framework to extract metadata from the files you give them. In this situation, I am picking the MS Office plugin. All plugins start with the file name scavpi dot, then the name of the plugin, .dll. First one's called File Info. Image Detail contains the EXIF and IPTC. MS Office contains any kind of Microsoft Office file, old or new, including the newer format with the X at the end, docx or XLSX, PPTX. PDF contains the PDF metadata. Rich media is audio and video, and XMP is used by images as well as PDF. So I open the plugin. If I go to loaded plugin and interfaces, I get to see internal information. This is what we internally use when we analyze new versions of the plugin, and we want to see if all interfaces are implemented. So it's more for programmers. The second tab, Plugin Scope, is very interesting, even for regular users or administrators that are creating FileMind workspaces. This will show you which raw source elements this particular plugin is able to extract. In this instance, you can see all the Microsoft Office metadata. If I go back to file parsing browsing and I select a file, and in this situation actually a file that is a Microsoft Office file, I'll just take a Excel file, it will start immediately with parsing this particular file within the capabilities of this plugin. And unlike FileMind, it will give you a lot more information. As an example, if I click the author raw source element, I will see much more than just the value. I will actually see the descriptor path. It belongs to the metadata group com, to the subgroup summary, and the item is called author. I also see that it is of data type string, which means it's letters. It is not read-only. I can edit it. It has custom properties, its value, and here's its entire descriptor path, the way it is loaded into the MetaMind framework. You can see in the list what type the raw source element is, and depending on the item, you will see entirely different details. In this situation, you will see it's an array. Typically, that's an array of string. So if I go to value, I can see how the raw value looks like. If I go to value details, I can see the details. Now let's try this with a much more complicated plugin. Back to the scavenger subdirectory. And now I'm picking the, how about the XMP? Yes. Since it is probably the most complicated plugin with the most functionality and scope. You can already see how much scope the XMP plugin knows by default, and that can be extended with configuration files that are written in XML. I am loading an image file. In this situation, a PNG file. And there we go. I'll see all the metadata items that are inside the file, color-coded by subgroup. As you can see, the Dublin Core subgroup is pink, green is XMP, the next one is XMP and so forth. Now if you have more complicated values, and you can start analyzing what this value is standing for. In this situation, the raw source element XMP DC description is defined in XMP as a language qualified item. So in theory, although not many programs can do this, in theory this value could be written in German, in English, in Russian, in any other language, and you would see under here on the bottom, as well as in the value details, the different language values, because it shows you whatever's inside of it. This is where the MMFAnalyzer shines, when it gives you all those additional information that otherwise would simply not be available. The same is true for title. Title is, by Adobe XMP specification, language qualified as well, so in theory it could have different values depending on the language of the user interface. It also allows you to get a better insight. Creator, same story. Creator is an array. That means you can have multiple values in there. You can have multiple names, just like in keywords in here, and it will be visible if there's more than one. Also, you can see custom properties that have been added manually by the person who created the FileMind workspace to this particular metadata item. In this situation, the creator item has a custom property called metapanel ID with a value of 9000, and a custom property that is called is always shown with a value true. Those two custom properties are important for FileMind metapanels in order to tell a particular metapanel if this raw source element, this metadata item, should be visible in the user interface or not. And any other custom property that has been added with a property file will be visible inside of the MMFAnalyzer. So there you have it. It is a very powerful toy to look deeper into the way the MetaMind framework works and the way metadata get extracted from files. It is limited to a particular plugin, versus FileMind utilizes all plugins when it parses a file. It gives you a very detailed log file, what happens when metadata is extracted. It shows you which metadata items are extracted, and it even gives you, that's the last important bit of information you need to know for MMFAnalyzer, it offers you a possibility to create an XML file that exports the entire scope of this current version of a plugin. In this situation, if I want to know what this version of the XMP plugin can do, I'll simply create this XML file. I make sure only the first one is checked. I then load this file. I can see the item DC contributor as an example. It shows me it's of type array. It is not read-only. It has a custom property that's called contributor. It has a URI. It is custom, which means it has custom properties such as tag ID and URI. And this information is in this XML file for every single raw source element that this plugin is able to extract. If you load custom properties or alternates, controlled vocabularies, with MMFAnalyzer, and you enable those checkboxes, then the export will contain those properties as well. Now, the MMFAnalyzer pulls different property files than the ones you pull in an FileMind workspace. For this, you need to go back into the directory where the scavenger binaries are stored, which is C:\program files, Metability software, FileMind 1.0, scavenger. This is the default path where you can find all scavenger files. And next to the actual binary files that are installed, that are needed, you will see one info element file, one RSC alternates file, and one RSC properties file. Those are placeholder files that you can edit. These files will be automatically loaded when MMFAnalyzer starts. Whatever is defined in those three files will be loaded when MMFAnalyzer is started. So if you want to experiment with particular properties, simply load this file in the editor and manipulate those properties that are in there. You can see sample files that are there for you to cut and paste specific custom properties. This completes the short quick start on the MetaMind Framework Analyzer test application. Any more details will surely be answered if you use the search function in the Metability wiki under wiki.metabilitysoftware.com, or simply use the email or the forum to ask a question, and I or somebody else from Metability will quickly try to answer it. Thank you very much for watching.